Anxiety over the economic impacts of Brexit have plagued businesses in the UK, Europe, and around the world since the 2016 referendum. The UK government's lack of clarity and failure to negotiate a smooth transition out of the European Union has left an immeasurable amount of potential impacts on businesses. And English football is not immune from these impacts, with the Premier League's brand as the best league in the world through its multinational inclusion of the best footballing talent under threat. Through the Maastricht Treaty and the subsequent Bosman ruling in 1995, the Premier League has hugely benefited from the freedom of labour movement within the EU. Brexit, for obvious reasons, could hinder that movement. EU players and those from European Economic Area countries could be subject to the same visa and work permit restrictions as players from countries outside of the EU, making the criteria for signing players stricter. According to football finance lecturer Kieran Maguire, this would potentially push up the price of imports by 10 to 15% due to the extra paperwork. The FA, however, see Brexit as an opportunity. The number of English players playing in the Premier League has been negatively affected by the appetite for foreign players. During the inaugural Premier League season in 1992-93, English players started 70% of games. In the 2017-18 season, English players started just 33% of games, a significant reduction and far less than the proportion of native talents in the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A and Liga. In November 2018, the FA published its plan to reduce the current threshold of non-homegrown players in a club's 25-man squad from 17 to 13 by 2021. And have stated that these changes are regardless of any specificities in a deal negotiated between the British government and the European Union. The FA believe that Brexit would allow English players to receive more game time and therefore better development. The Premier League has categorically rejected this view, stating that there is no evidence that stronger quotas than exist now would have a positive impact on national teams. So, while the FA's argument seems logical, it is likely based on a series of ideas driven by confirmation bias. The English national team has underperformed relative to public expectation since the inception of the Premier League. This view was exacerbated by the fortunes of the ill-fated golden generation of the mid to late 2000s. English clubs, littered with integral English players, were performing exceptionally in European competitions. Between 2004-05 and 2008-09, there was an English club in every final of the Champions League and an incredible 3 out of 4 in the semi-finals of 2007-08 and 2008-09. The likes of Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Ashley Cole, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes, David Beckham and Wayne Rooney were all star-quality players able to be decisive for clubs on the grandest of stages. For the national team, however, the group disappointed. And speaking before the low point of the generation, the defeat to Croatia which confirmed England's failure to qualify for Euro 2008, Gerrard aired his views on England's struggles. I think there's a risk of too many foreign players coming over, which would affect our national team eventually if it's not already. It's important that we keep producing players. This theme of thinking was echoed by numerous other figures in the game, including Sir Alex Ferguson, Sepp Blatter, Michel Platini and the FA's chairman Greg Dyke. However, Stefan Szymanski and Simon Cooper's Soccernomics highlights the problems with import substitution in specific reference to English football. If English clubs were allowed to discriminate against players from foreign countries, they claim, the quality would decline due to factors not just relating to quality, but motivation for native footballers. If inferior English players were handed places in Premier League teams, they would have little incentive to improve. This is because, due to the transparent nature of football's labour market, economic theory dictates that, in the instance of the free labour movement, the best players naturally congregate in the best quality leagues due to the meritocratic nature of football's finances and the promotion and relegation structure. Therefore, English footballers have the distinct advantage of the world's premier football competition in their back garden, and the highest development standard is set for them. Szymanski and Cooper back up their hypothesis with statistics, comparing England's performances in the era of a British league from 1968 to 1992 with their performances since 1998, albeit deliberately leaving out the 1966 World Cup as it was an anomaly played exclusively at home. They found that, in that first British period up to 1992, England reached just one World Cup semi-final in 1990, and that was an exception. In those years, England reached the quarter-finals of major tournaments only 4 times in 13 attempts. By contrast, in the international period since 1998, they've reached 4 quarterfinals in just 8 attempts. Moreover, their win percentage at major tournaments jumped from 52% in 68-92 to 62% in the international period. The figures suggest that, if anything, the International League has been good for the England team. Furthermore, Szymanski and Cooper's statistical research took place before the 2018 World Cup, a tournament in which England reached the semi-final. The Premier League's claim that there is no evidence that stronger quotas would have a positive impact on national teams certainly passes the eye test. The very fact that the Premier League is so fiercely competitive on a weekly basis both improves the development of English-born players by setting a higher bar, but negatively affects the national team in a way unrelated to talent development: exhaustion. Wayne Rooney playing successive World Cups while half fit is a classic example. The Premier League's competitiveness also causes clubs to rely on their key players, sometimes in the form of rushing them back early from injury. This can lead to severe drops in form or reoccurring injuries, neither of which are particularly useful to the national team. To combat exhaustion, the FA have agreed with the Premier League to introduce a winter break, a 10-day hiatus in February from the 2019-20 season onwards. And while this is a very short break in comparison to other European leagues, it is a significant step in the right direction, along with the scrapping of the FA Cup 5th round replays. It seems, therefore, that England's perceived underperformance is less the fault of foreign imports in the Premier League, but more related to the unforgiving nature of the English football calendar and managing squad harmony. Meaning, of course, that whatever talent drain results from Brexit is unlikely to be directly linked to a dramatic improvement in the national team's fortunes.